Fancy intro music, yeah! Woo!
Hey Star Trek Fleet Command fans, happy holidays and welcome to another video where we're talking about crews. But today, because I felt like, hey, we're in the Christmas spirit, we want to be giving and loving and tender to everybody, we're going to focus on great crew loadouts and why they worked, and talk about how you can maybe take some of these and adapt them for yourself. Maybe take a couple of these and go, whoa, I could put that on my ship thanks to some of these events allowing me to unlock them. And we're going to go through a variety of, including in this episode, we're going to do 6 crews or 6 screenshots, technically more than that because some of these have great crews on both go around. So we're going to go through several of these. Shout out to everybody who provided these screenshots for this video. And because there are so many, I'm going to go ahead and just rotate it in with the power of bam, the internet. Yeah, that's incredible. But we've got Vorcha, Achille, Honor Guard Wharf with Vorcha, Kurla, Honor Guard Wharf. Both of these are good loadouts. I do want to go ahead and point out that no matter which route you go here, both of these work really well. And I guess it's always important for us to explain why these are good and why they work really well. So we can hop into our officer menu. Now, real quick, you'll see that there are some shared here between the two. And just to denote that, we will cover only one officer that is shared. So we'll look at Honor Guard Wharf once, and we won't try to do both of them at the same time. So since we're going to look at Honor Guard Wharf, let's go ahead and rotate this on out real quick and look at Rage of Kittimer. For the first 8 rounds of combat against other players, Honor Guard Wharf increases the critical hit chance of the ship by 45% at tier 1. Now, I do not have the tier levels for all these officers in this video, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that most of them are of a decent tier. What I mean decent tier, that they're tier 1, depending on whatever we're talking about, is going to be, applicable in terms of effectiveness. And a tier 1 Honor Guard Wharf is immediately effective in getting criticals. And obviously for a Saladin, it's very important to get an early critical because you're relying on that big gun. You want to hit that as soon as possible. Then we have the Vorcha Achille combination, and this has become a very popular group for some time. And that's obviously because of the combination of Vorcha as captain, which will give you hull breach. Here, let me pull Vorcha up for you since I finally have Vorcha. With the manipulations, the captain's ability at the start of the round decreases the opponent's weapon damage by 100%. Now, this will be 150% because you have Achille synergy here, but then also the secondary ability creating a hull breach. Now, this is important because if you can get hull breach and critical together, you're getting that double bonus where you're having damage and you multiply by critical chance and you multiply by hull breach, which is why you can see ships like the Saladin creating so much power out of the gate. And then real quick, we'll go over and take a look at our good friend Achille. She's amazing. We love the Terran Empire, and this is what she can do. Now, mine's only tier 2, but to give you an example, start of each round, if the opponent has hull breach, increases your armor, shield, deflection, and dodge, so giving you more mitigation. Now, Vorcha, Kurla work in a similar manner from the opposite end. Vorcha creating hull breach, and then we have Kurla, who is simply going to increase the critical damage for kinetic weapons, which obviously works very well here, but it just so happens that a better loadout was presented with the one on the left, and criticals were hitting. Battle number 2, we're going to take a look at. We got an Augur versus an Enterprise, and we talk about this one quite a bit. The Enterprise with a good crew of TOS Kirk, TOS Uhura, kind of cutting off the screen a little bit there. Let me fix that for you. There we go. TOS Uhura against an Augur running Marcus, Merrick, Krell, with Merrick as the captain going for that burn ability. So if we're going to sort by group, we're going to go to Merrick real quick, and we'll even make this smaller so it's easy for you to see on the screen. So one little adjustment. So as captain, every time the ship gets hit by a weapons attack, 20% chance of burning the opponent's ship by 1 for 1 round, which is obviously important for the obliterator weapon for the Augur. And since we've had these adjustments to morale, hull breach, and burning, these type of abilities now even more useful than they were before, now being able to be used by several different officers. Now, obviously the Marcus there is going to give you your mitigation change, increasing your shield piercing, which obviously is the weakness of the Enterprise, if you can overcome its ability in terms of that shield mitigation number. And then you've got Krell. Both of these officers work the exact same way. They are a boost to Federation. When you're attacking Federation, they give you a pure damage boost, with the max being 500%. You see my tier 4 one in the background here, 175%. Either way, a very effective and very useful crew against TOS Kirk, TOS Uhura, which is it's a solid crew loadout. But you're seeing an auger punch well above its weight. Not normally what you're seeing happen, because we always talk about how good the Enterprise is. But now we're giving a little bit of love to the auger because of a great crew loadout. And you've heard me mention Marcus Merritt Krell several times. Here's a great example of it in action. I also want to point out real quick, though, that Enterprise is loaded out really well. And I bet if there's an ISS jelly rolling around about 6-7 million power, that Enterprise is going to kick its booty. But in this particular case, you end up having the winner is the auger, which I love to see because I love me some auger love.
This video is sponsored by, oh, you thought I was going to say Raid Shadow Legends. No, it's sponsored by Amazon Coin, which allows you to save money when you spend money on games like Mafia City and some other pretty cool titles out there. And the way to get it is pretty daggum easy. And there's even a link in the description below. Next thing you need to do is, if you are an Android device, steps are pretty easy. This is a worldwide thing. America, UK, Germany, Spain, France, Australia, even down under, you can get Amazon coins to help save you money while going through this. Step one, you're going to bind your account to a game like Mafia City to Facebook. Make sure they're bound together. Step two, you're going to download the Amazon App Store. Yes, it has its own version of the App Store that you can get on Google, or you can just click this link or the QR code, or just scan it with your phone. Number three is you're going to download the game of your choice like Mafia City directly using the Amazon App Store, and this is going to let you use those Amazon coins. Step four, you're going to make sure that your account is linked because that's kind of an important step. And then step five, when going to make a purchase, use Amazon coins to make that purchase instead of using your other pay formats, and this is how you're going to save. Now, here's what you get when you do this. Link down below, you're going to need it. You then only have to spend $400 to get $500 worth. Now that's just an example. There's definitely smaller packs, and as you can see by this hand-in chart, ways you can save money. And there's a special going on right now. If you spend $500, you're only having to spend $382 to get $500 worth of coins, saving you money in these games. Get it, and shout out Amazon Coins for supporting the people.
Rotate it over, and we're going to do another one. And this time, like I said, we want a wide variety of different types. And now we've got Kirk, Spock, Zhao, but TOS Kirk, Spock, Zhao going against Kirk, Spock, and Decius. This is a Meridian beating a Vidar. Those OPC hunters. I'm an OPC hunter myself. I love to see it. But in this particular case, got to give a lot of love to the Meridian for the defense here. And when the Meridian gets maxed, it will start beating Vidars pretty handily, I have found. Now, I want to talk about the crews here. We know how some of these work, but just because I want to refresh, y'all know Kirk, Spock, that is a morale combination where you're getting Spock to regenerate shields. Here, swapping out regular Kirk for TOS Kirk because they wanted to go for the captain's ability, which, if I make this smaller so you can see, is going to be when fighting players. Sorry, I clicked out of it. At the start of each round, as long as the ship has burning, increases the damage of energy weapons by the 100% of the total defensive stats of the officers on the ship. Now, why is that important? A lot of the officers that you can stack on the Meridian, including Spock, are defensive based, meaning that you're getting a big boost to what this damage can actually provide on the ship, meaning you can go take out a Vidar, even though it's maxed, and take very little damage simply from that. Not to mention you have Zhao in this particular instance, which, if you remember, Zhao, especially if you're able to level him up, mine's at tier 4, which is an effective officer. Even then, Zhao, if I can find him, because I feel like I've already passed him. Zhao, where you hiding, buddy? There you are. There is giving you a mitigation boost. Think of exactly how 5 of 10 captain ability works. So this is a good crew for providing defense, shield regeneration, and even a little bit of damage boost and changing it up a little bit. The one drawback, though, remember, TOS Kirk will stop producing your morale if you drop below a certain amount of health. So keep that in mind. It's one of the reasons a lot of people go with regular Kirk, but that Vidar not really getting the damage boost because DC is not really set for short battles. Longer battles like Armadas, things like that, DCS give you a little bit more of an actual boost. In this instance, TOS Kirk doing a lot more for the Meridian than if you are in the Vidar here. So just comparing crews versus themselves. One more time, I want to pull up TOS Kirk so you can see when fighting players in PvP, and then also the secondary ability. That's what I'm talking about. With 30% of its starting value, has a 75% chance of inspiring morale for the ship this round. There you go. If it's above 30% of its starting value. So if it drops below, you're going to lose morale. Let's move on to another one. And there we're starting to get some of the big boys participating in today's video. And this is a Coronar going against a Newton, and this is another critical build. One thing you'll notice a lot of in the higher level battles, we're going to be talking a lot about criticals and mitigation. Criticals and mitigation. And of course, you see my girl Charvinick here with the penetration to armor piercing. So this is going to make it a lot easier to take on that Newton. And as you can see here, these are pretty evenly matched ships. The Coronar are a little bit weaker in terms of overall power, one tier lower, but winning very handily against the battle triangle because of two things. One, combining criticals with hull breach for insane damage boost, and then the actual effect of Charvinick. Charvinick able to overcome what 5 of 10 is doing here in terms of the mitigation boost for the Newton. Charvinick overcomes that, so the mitigation of that Newton is very low. Then you have much more damage being provided because there's a hull breach combined with criticals. Hull breach getting added into the critical equation is way better than right over there running con. Even though a lot of big fights, and we'll see this happen in another screenshot here in a second, even though you start getting into these higher level fights, the hull strength of these ships gets so high that 8 rounds sometimes might not be enough for that honor guard Wharf, even if it's enough to get just a massive front punch. With hull breach and the criticals combining, you're able to put up this type of damage, thus beating what is a pretty solid loadout. There's nothing wrong with 5 con Marcus, especially against a Coronar, but this is the type of power you can get when mixing criticals and hull breach, and then of course giving the piercing element that you're getting from Charvinick a huge W. Move on to another one, and I was really excited about showing this one. This gives a perspective on a crew that not a lot of people have talked about using, but you can see great effect here as a high level battle. One, I'm sure everybody loves to see the high level battle. Who doesn't like to see a Vorcha victory over a Corvus? And should be noted that the Corvus was cloaked. The Corvus attacked the Vorcha and still lost, and we need to talk about why. Now, the first one to be noted here is Yuki on the opposite side. I have had people try to tell me that Yuki is not an effective officer, and that's simply not true. Yuki very effective at higher levels, stripping the shield so that you can get more damage to the hull, which actually happens in this particular fight. It's just simply not enough to win the fight. And let's talk about why. We're going to bring up Saru here. And yeah, you're probably surprised if you've not really been using Saru before, but the reason Saru getting used here is this captain's ability. When fighting players, every time your ship is hit by a critical, decreases the critical hit chance of the opponent's ship by 10%. Now, if you remember, Honor Guard Wharf on that far side gives a 45% boost at tier 1. So even if you were at 60%, it's only going to take 6 hits, which is not hard with these type of ships, to now the critical is at 0. So everything that Honor Guard Wharf was giving you is now negated. And you can do that in simply a couple of rounds depending on what ship is hitting you. That is a massive bonus to negate one of the most important things in this game in terms of attack ability and how to enhance your ship's power. You just saw the power of Gorkon and Honor Guard Wharf together, or Lorca and Honor Guard Wharf together, and Saru helping negate that, while also bringing a critical build of your own using Khan. And then on the opposite side, you see this was a build designed around the idea that we're going to strip your shields and simply outgun you with hull breach and criticals. Well, we negated that with Saru as captain. And then also the secondary ability is decreasing your opponent's weapons damage. Now, there is a little bit of a negative here where Yuki is best against Romulans because that's her officer ability. Still, the shield strip is important. And also, this is an opportunity to show Galron in a fight because he's very specific in how he works. However, here helps out because you're boosting your shield deflection. Now, because this ship is a battleship, it already has naturally high armor. Now also having naturally high shield deflection, the mitigation that this Vorcha has is higher than normal. So even though you probably still had a couple of nice criticals and enough, some hull breach early on for the Corvus, it's not enough to get through the high mitigation the Vorcha naturally would have had, not only fighting with the battle triangle in its favor, but then getting another element of that mitigation boosted up thanks to Galron. So you're able to see a pretty impressive victory. Same tier ships. You can see research heavily in favor of the Corvus, as well as the Corvus getting a cloaking bonus, which if I recall, that's like what, a 300% bonus or something for a Corvus. It's very high. I know the Coronar is 200%. So you're looking at a very, very big swing that you probably weren't expecting. If you're the Corvus, you thought you kind of had this 14 million power in the bank, but ends up not being the case. And I just love this match because you're seeing a crew set that you're not used to seeing, and both of these crews are very good crews, and that's why I really have enjoyed this. Let's do one more before we wrap up. We said we were going to do 6, so here's our final one, and this is another augur taking on a D4, showing another flip of the battle triangle. Now the augur is a tier higher here compared to the D4, wearing that beautiful D7 skin, but both crews pretty solid. You get an idea of what the D4 was trying to do. I'm not a big fan of the loadout there, the TOS Kirk as captain, and then Honor Guard Wharf with Marcus. I would much rather, if you're going to do that, just go for the full-on critical build there with the D4. Use the Lorca Achille Honor Guard Wharf, or just simply use Lorca Honor Guard Wharf and then Marcus if you're trying to fight explorers. But I do want to give a little bit of love to this old school crew for the augur having success. And a lot of that, once again, to what we just talked about at the very beginning of this video, how they've changed things in the game. You've got Vimit here for shield stripping, which you can see working. Look at the D4, see that big black bar? That is evidence of shield strip working in the game. So that D4 lost its shields pretty quickly in this fight. Then you've got DJ Aoki working the exact same way as Zal, boosting the augur's mitigation. So even though the D4 had the battle triangle advantage here, gets negated a little bit by the fact that we have DJ Aoki continually boosting up the mitigation of the augur. So even though if it was hitting criticals, it's not able to get that damage to the whole of the augur. It's only able to just right off of it. That's what mitigation does. It deflects most of the damage from your opponent. And then of course, Nero as captain, especially with that burning ability, is giving you more damage through the obliterator weapon. Now I'll pull up Nero real quick, just in case y'all need a quick refresher. I'll minimize this here in the back. Captain's ability, Joy and Vengeance. At the beginning of each round, if the opponent ship is burning, increases the damage of the weapons by 40%. This really not that important here. It's one of the reasons Nero is typically a sidecar, but it's completely fine in this instance. And then finally, the See the Flaws, creating burning for 2 rounds. And now that they can stack after round 1, the augur can have burning going for the entire fight. So if it's a 13-round fight, that augur could have been going burning for 12 of those, which means constant DJ Aoki keeping the mitigation stats up, and then Vimit stripping shields. So not only did you have the obliterator weapon giving you a natural damage growth, then you had Nero on top of that. And this is just a great combination of several things working together in unison. And this 16-minute video as a special holiday thank you to the channel, all because we want to talk about crews. And this is basically a video where almost every crew you see here is a very good primo crew. Even some of the ones that aren't necessarily great like the D4 just need a little bit of tweaking. And hopefully you've seen some of these that you can use on your ships. And hopefully this video helped explain of how they work in various situations. And if you have questions, of course, drop them down in the comment section below. Love y'all. Truly do appreciate everything that you do for me, my family, and this channel. Live long and prosper. Stay safe out there, Space Cowboys. Deuces, that's me. If I talked a little bit fast, I apologize. Had a lot to get through, but hopefully it was worth it. Can't wait to see you on the next video and the next live stream. We're outie.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.